So I've actually put this up on the whiteboard before. For anyone who doesn't remember, it's the Deadly Quartet. It's a hypothesis by a guy named Norman Kaplan. Jesus. It was in the 1989, which is funny because it's still not fully accepted today, even though through scientific studies he's shown this to be the case. And I thought this was interesting to put up there again because we've been putting a lot of like health and wellness stuff on the Instagram. Things that I find interesting, people I follow, I think that have invalid points or interesting things to say. And I recently got fact-checked. For anyone who doesn't know, if you have a social media post and the agenda doesn't agree with your agenda, they fact-check you and they remove it so people can't see it. Or they ask you, are you sure you want to see this because it might not be true?
Really?
Yeah, do you know who fact-checks it?
Who fact-checked it?
Meta, people that own Instagram.
Oh.
No, the problem with that is that company is captured. It's bought by somebody. So the reason it was flagged for inaccuracy is because it doesn't follow WHO guidelines, World Health Organization guidelines. Do you guys happen to know who the biggest funders of the WHO are?
China.
Well, United States, but primarily the pharmaceutical industries and the food industries. Now, why would the food industry give them money? Well, it's because they want to get what they have for opinions put out there as bond. And the interesting thing here is, this guy back in the 80s, late 80s, proved scientifically, demonstrated, I should say is a better way to describe it, that it's not the sodium you have to be worried about for hypertension. Who here has heard someone say, like a relative, go easy on the salt? Bad news. It's not the salt you gotta be worried about. It's the sugar. This diagram here, while very convoluted, I'm gonna explain really quickly is how this happens. So that for a long time it was thought that because you are fat, meaning you have excess weight around your midsection, you are more likely to have high triglycerides, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes. That was the thought of the root cause. Because you are fat around your midsection, you are more likely to get hypertriglycerides, you're more likely to have hypertension, and you're far more likely to have type 2 diabetes. Turns out the weight is simply a symptom of a bigger problem. Something called hyperinsulinemia, which basically means having chronically elevated insulin levels, and that comes from pounding carbohydrates. You do not have insulin spikes in that degree from eating steaks and eggs or vegetables that are low glycemic. You get it from the things in the center of the grocery store, the cookies, the cakes, all that crap. The cooks, they get it to you. They eat it to you. Now, how this works, again, is a bit convoluted, but I'm going to try to explain this diagram as quickly and as easily as I can. Because of your hyperinsulinism, the constant spiking of your blood sugar, you retain more sodium. You retain more sodium, your blood gets thicker, your heart has to work harder to pump it. You get what's called vascular hypertrophy. Your heart essentially gets bigger. You also have an increase in sympathetic nervous system activation, all of which directly lead to the hypertension. This hyperinsulinism causes peripheral insulin resistance, which basically means your muscles and cells that aren't directly in the center of you from digestion cannot absorb sugar that's in your bloodstream. As a result, you become insulin insensitive, which is type 2 diabetes. You also see increased pancreatic insulin secretion, which you still cannot process because your rest of your body does not absorb it. This also causes decreased hepatic insulin extraction, which basically means your liver can't take insulin out of your bloodstream either. All of these things cause an increase in obesity because when you have all these things floating around, high insulin and androgen receptors, which are basically sex hormones that tell your body to build, sex hormones help you rebuild things, you get fat. As a result of getting fat, you break down fat in your cells. Get something called lipolysis. Lipolysis, I'm saying that wrong, I think, but lipolysis, there we go. As a result, you have an increased release of fatty acids in your bloodstream. That is what's measured when you go to the doctor and they say, oh, you have high triglycerides. And this system feeds round and around and around and around. And the root cause is the carbohydrate. It's too much sugar. So when you guys come in here and we talk about nutrition, you know, I want good quality protein sources, low glycemic carbohydrate, and healthy fats. We are trying to avoid this like the plague. This is the thing we have to be worried about when we put food in our face. What does that food do to our blood sugar? Because all the times that we spike our blood sugar and then it drop and spike and drop and spike and drop, we are feeding into the system, which again causes problems with your pancreas, problems with your liver, problems with your kidneys, increased obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and high triglycerides. So again, when you guys come to the gym, the exercise is a great way to build insulin sensitivity. Like what we did today in class 3:30 and what you're about to do at 5 p.m. is a great way to draw the sugar that's in your blood into your muscle cells. But you can't out-train a bad diet. It doesn't matter how much Lin you do in class. You could do Lin 18 times a day for the rest of your life. If you eat like trash, you won't see the benefits of it. You will still have these problems. You cannot out-train a bad diet. And I'm sorry to say, but as human beings, we think that we just did a workout that burned 20 million calories, and that cake I just had is probably like 10 calories, maybe 11. We actively think like that, and unfortunately, it's the exact opposite. We overestimate how much we just did in the gym, and we underestimate how much that food damages us. And like I've said before, you're only one meal away from being back on the right path. Don't be the weirdo that doesn't have a slice of cake at the birthday party, but realize that if you constantly spike and drop your blood sugar, you're gonna end up like these folks here. Hypertension, hypertriglyceridemia, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. You guys have any questions? Yes, Pam?
You know how you look at carbs and then you have net carbs?
It's usually because of fiber, yeah.
Because you just break down the fiber. But if you're really looking at the carbs, or you should just be looking at the carbs and don't really pay attention to the fiber that's in it and not down the carbs.
I mean, if you're eating it from a whole food source, there's a good chance there's a lot more fiber in it than if it comes in a box that has a label that says net carbs and dietary fiber. That's not to say you can't eat some of those things, but like what you should be looking at is this food high glycemic and how much carbohydrate is in it? If your goal is weight loss, your goal is performance, you do not need, especially if your goal is to just come in here and be healthy, you do not need an exceeding amount of carbohydrates in your diet. Most people look at the CrossFit Games athletes and go, look at them. They're eating bowls of rice and ice cream and donuts and shit. You are not them. They don't do fucking anything else besides sleep, train, and eat. Nothing else. They're some of the most boring people on earth. I'm serious. They are boring to be around. That's all their life revolves around. Trust me, for 15 years of my life, that was my life with those people. I love those folks, but their life is fucking boring. And it's not a good example of what healthy diets are. So like when you go out and you seek nutrition help, a lot of times in the CrossFit space, you get someone, they're gonna go at you with the idea of aesthetics or performance, both of which are not a very good objective to shoot for. You should be shooting for health. That's what matters. Those people will put you on a high protein, high carb, low fat diet. It does get you looking shredded. It is not good for you. You might look a certain way, but you are not actively making your health healthier, which is what we should be thinking about when we do these trainings. We want to eat a certain way so we support our health, not aesthetics, not the best 5K row time. Now, of course, that's a part of your life where you really want to be competitive in the sport of CrossFit. Maybe you do it for a little bit. But I'm not going to here tell you that donuts and Snickers bars and Diet Coke, that's flat because it gets the sugar in real fast, is healthy for you. So to answer your question in a long roundabout way, Pam, I would be concerned with how much carbohydrates in the item and whether or not when you look it up, it says it's high glycemic or low glycemic. And typically if it comes in a box, it's high glycemic. If it comes in a box in the center of a grocery store, it's just, again, we should have it in very limited quantities, right? Holidays, have a cookie. Just don't make cookies from December 1st through December 25th. Any other questions? Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.